So here we be for another round.
We'll do it live. All right. Hold on to your lug nuts.
Yeah.
So these are little things you might hear us say from time to time that maybe we'll make a T-shirt out of one day. I bet you Bill O'Reilly owns that phrase. We'll do it live.
Probably.
If he doesn't, he is missing out.
I was going to say, there's all kinds of memes about it already. I mean, it's existed. It's now in perpetuity on the internet is what it is. It lives in infamy out there in the great beyond of cyberspace.
Who is it that owns, I think it's Pat O'Reilly? No, Pat Riley? Pat Riley? I don't remember. The coach of the LA Lakers back in the day when they were so big. And they did, maybe it was the Bulls. I don't remember. Anyway, they had 3 championships in a row. And he went out and got the copyrights to the word three-peat.
Oh, really?
Like, if that's used in context on air, on TV, on anything, he has a right to residuals on it. I mean,
talk about staying on top of it.
I mean, so yeah, if I was Bill O'Reilly, I would be like, do it live. So what are we doing live here today? We're not live, but live to tape, as they call it.
Yeah.
And it's not tape. It's digital, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Cards. We are here today to talk about something that I believe is somewhat mysterious and probably rated as far as the need to do it well in the fantasy world building, writing sphere. I think my personal thinking is, and this is just judging by what I've seen and what I see around me right now, if I'm looking at books, which we will do, I feel like that naming and the naming conventions used are really on a scale of weird and way out there down to what the hell were they thinking? That to me is the scale. And it's like there's not much in between that's great. And maybe I'm being too critical. Maybe I'm too biased. Maybe I'm just arrogantly thinking that what we do is great. Whatever. It's at this point, when you look, just like we did with maps, you open a book and you look at the map and you go, man, that's great. I really want to read this book because of what I'm seeing. Well, same with what you're seeing as far as maps, coloration, geography details, all those things. If you're looking at the words themselves or the names themselves, what does that do to you, right? Does that draw you in? Does it make you want to read the book? Now, maybe that's a stretch. Maybe we, especially us guys, we're very visually motivated, right? We see something, we like it, we go for it, right? But when I get in further and I've loved the map, let's say, and I see the names written on it, and I'm like, man, I've seen that name before. That's been used before somewhere. Or, wow, it's got too many X's or Z's in it. It's like it's almost telling. And I think what it tells is either there was difficulty, there was over complexification, if that's a word. It's not, but they over thought, analyzed till they were paralyzed the usage of consonants, vowels, and philology. Is that the word? Philology?
It can be.
Wasn't Tolkien a philologist?
Oh,
I know he was a linguistic professor of linguistics, and philology, I think, is the word.
Oh, okay. I wish I had the direct answer for you, but that's one of those things that I'm unfamiliar with that part as far as Tolkien goes.
Yeah, well,
Wish I could say I knew everything about the guy, which
let me look it up here.
Which we know a lot, but
you can.
I do know that he did think that there were certain words that should exist with the whole eucatastrophe, which I think is a pretty freaking cool word. I think they.
There we go.
Okay, gotcha.
The branch of knowledge that deals with the structure, historical development, and relationship of a language or languages. Philology. So
that makes sense.
There's a new one for you guys. You probably already knew it because you probably, like us, you've studied Tolkien. Cody fell asleep that day on that page. But yeah, basically the when you're talking about using language as a creative take, right? A fresh creative take. Not, I mean, we've gone through this before, and this is what this video is about. So jump in with us. We're going to go deep, and please like, share, hit the bell, subscribe. Thank you guys for going on this journey with us. But we're going to talk about, the difficulties of not only language and naming, but we're going to go into, and probably in further videos, but we'll talk about the difficulties of, for me in writing, like, do we call it feet and inches, yards, feet and inches, or do we call it days of the week the same? Tolkien, I think, did have a very similar calendar in months and the naming of the months. And I go back to Tolkien again, grandfather, classic. He's the kind of the litmus test. But we talked about it long ago. Do we have the same clock? Do we have 24 hours? All these things come into question when you're building a world.
Yeah.
So when I look at names, when I think about the naming convention of an author or just a world builder, RPG, campaign, game master, whatever, what's going to draw me in? What's going to be kind of a wink, like, hey, we really tried at this, or we didn't, right? And we wanted to share with y'all some of the ways that we've kind of, stumbled, ambled, and made our way through this technique or this process. It's not necessarily what I would say an easy thing.
I was gonna say it's not. I guess depending on what you're doing, if you really want to be truly unique and have your world stand out, it should by no means be an easy thing, because there's only so many times you can see the name River Road before you're like, okay, or anything like that. Like every now and then, things like that are fine, and I think there's a lot of them that are still really fine and good to this day. But I think that the difficulty increases the more pronounced and unique you want it to be, while simultaneously being, I guess the word is good, without coming across, like you said, where at this point the need to be different has kind of trumped everything, and then now it's just like there are 7 Z's and 3 Y's, and this is an 18-syllable word that we're trying to pronounce for this country or this city or whatever, and it's like, all right, everybody needs to dial it back just a little bit, to the point where your basic fantasy reader, or just your basic reader in general, might be looking at this, and when they come across it, they're like, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which I have done.
If you're talking about the Brown Hills or the River Road, like you said, we even had a River Road, and I think we nixed it. A placeholder name is fine while you're building your maps or building your worlds. But like I said, the brown hills, the what would be another word for, like, I think the sea of whatever, there's all kinds of cliche names. The blue ocean. But I mean, that's probably not been used. Maybe it has. But, I think in trying to come up with, like, when we started, we pulled names right out of our rear, didn't we? Like, it was just, I mean.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a lot that it was just, it just came down to the phonetics, how it sounded.
Right. So phonetics, that's a good point. Like,
there's a lot of what we had that it was just like, if it sounded good, it was like, oh, that sounds like it could be something.
So rule of cool, right?
Yeah.
That's our rule of cool, which is, and we're going to put that on a shirt or something. It's Cody's, maybe it's been used, I don't know, but our rule of cool is if it looks good, it is good. If it sounds good, it is good. And phonetically, I think I really went back to Tolkien in the early days of map making, and looked at things that I thought, man, that sounds really good. Like, Mirkwood, okay, that's pretty simple, right? Erebor, man, that sounds like it's been there, right? It sounds like a real thing. It sounds, Misty Mountains, yeah, but you see how he did it. Like, there was a balance of common words, and then there was made up words, which, thinking about it, it's a pretty good idea to do, to give the world some ease, where it's not like you're trying to pronounce everything.
Right.
So there are some staple things in there that are easy to understand. You get Misty Mountains. That's self-explanatory. But the Iron Hills, things like that, he used just regular words. But then for his regions, like Rohan and Gondor, no. I mean, those were made up names. They aren't in the English language.
No.
So we kind of started doing that from the very beginning, of just phonetically, like Cody said, does it sound good? And then we came to a stop because I think we knew there was going to be a lot of names needed to fill up the map. And it was like, man, we might need some help with this. Like, and if any of y'all have used, if you are a game master, novelist, whatever, there's no doubt in my mind you've gone to the old name generators on the internet for, like, fantasy name generators. Just Google that, and you'll find
plenty of stuff.
You'll find plenty of them. Now they're almost obsolete, right? Because of AI, Chat GPT has really made all of that, pointless.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it gets hard to beat, and of course we're just gonna keep going and going and going. I mean, it's not gonna, at least right now, it's not showing any signs of stopping. Visually, it's already done a lot of great things for photos that it makes just from sentence prompts, to videos it makes from those prompts, to filling in empty gaps in videos and pictures, doing generative fill, because Photoshop does a lot of that now, where you can do a generative fill. And if there's something in this area that it's a big bunch of nothing, or you just want to expand the picture, you can be like, hey, fill this up. And it will either pull from the existing picture, or you could type in the prompt and be like, make a field of flowers over here. And, in this, that I'm expanding this image by, a whole nother 1,000 pixels or
so
whatever.
we've used AI for some things, just testing it, really, just seeing what it's capable of, seeing how it could help when you're writing a story or writing a novel or creating a book cover, whatever. And I will say, from my standpoint, I think we've kind of hit some of the outside walls of it as it relates to repetition.
Yeah,
Don't you think that'd be the fair way to say it?
probably.
Like, it tends to want to repeat itself thematically. So if you're talking about, let's just use a like festival. Like, if you have a town and it's like, they have a festival in this town. Well, it's the festival of blank. Well, if you 4 days later have another town or region and it's talking about festivals, it could be the same exact name,
Right.
which, again, you're reaching that outside wall of AI a little bit. Now, in 2 years, that'll probably be much further out.
Right.
I mean, we won't be bouncing off of it, that quickly. Mm-hmm. But it's only going to do what it's been told to do, or what it's been trained to do, right? Or what the output is only going to match the input.
Yeah.
So, why are we even talking about AI and, name generators? Just because name generating and naming, the naming conventions that you would use to flesh out your world and to, put into your story, I'll have to say, for me, was one of the greatest challenges. Is also one of the most rewarding, if you have reached the point, like I think we have, where we're satisfied with it. Like, it feels, the world feels like it's been lived in. The world feels like it's been there a long time, and it's someplace that you want to be. It's like Middle Earth. Like, who doesn't want to go to Middle Earth? Or in our case, we can go to New Zealand and kind of touch Middle Earth a little bit. And even though I hate being a tourist, I definitely want to do that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I want to go see Hobbiton, and
Oh, absolutely.
I think they have even helicopter tours where they take you around and show you, where things were shot, and there's markers, but regardless, there is, a potential for you to set yourself apart and to really engage a potential reader before they've read the first word, in my opinion. Like, open flap is the first thing you're going to do when you pick a book up off the shelf, right? Open the front cover, and like we said, if there's a map there, awesome. If you look at the map, get close and look at the words on it. If they're intelligible or they're great sounding, I think that's part of it. I mean, that's me, but let's do it. Just first one I pulled off the shelf. Dragonlance. This would be the world of Kryn. Yeah, just like we did with the maps. Is there even a map in here? There is not. Well, isn't that something?
Well, that may have to deduct points.
We're gonna say
Shame.
I mean, it's got this. It's got that, but that's not a map. I guess it figures you already know the map if you've made it to this point in the series. Yeah, that gets points. Oh, here's another Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman. Doom of the Dragon. Okay. Here's a map. Pretty good looking map, actually. What do you say?
Nice little gradient going on. I like it, just from what I can see from here.
Okay, so let's just jump in. Courageous? That middle region?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a scale of 1 to 10. Carriages? 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 Kharajis. That's the main continent on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, it's Rajakis or Rajakis or...
We're definitely in...
the lands of Carajus, and Rajicus. You see the problem.
So I was gonna say before. Yeah, I was gonna say I think we've already figured out where is stood there, where we stand right there, because I'm not gonna pronounce that any different than the attempts that you're doing.
Okay,
either.
So let's talk about that though, right? If in the beginning there's pronunciation issues, some authors, and I really like this idea, y'all can let us know if you do or not, but what about a glossary of terms, like in the front of the book to help pronunciation? Is that something you would do or would want to do, or does it take away?
That's a good question.
Because I know as a kid, I got so confused reading The Lord of the Rings. I'm talking I was 9 or 10 years old, and I got confused between Saruman and Sauron. They were so close. Now glossary is not going to help that, but that is a whole nother point. But if you are saying something wrong, even in Dragonlance, when I was a kid reading that, and this is the mid '80s, Raslin is how I pronounced Raslin.
I gotcha.
Tanis. Tanis sounds better than Tanus.
I'll say.
And Uranus.
Uh-huh.
It's Uranus now. You know that? They've recoined how you say that planet. Uranus.
Oh. God, everybody just takes the fun out of everything all the time. They never just let us have anything.
Uranus.
I'm not calling it that.
Okay, so in my estimation, the rule of cool has been somewhat broken here, in my opinion, because I don't know, maybe it looks good, but it's not easy to say.
Kind of reminds me of the Khajiit in Elder Scrolls, which is the name of the cat race or feline race, whatever you want to call it. But looking at that, yeah, I wouldn't make any other different pronunciations about it, which if that's the case, if we were to be told, okay, that has to be said with some kind of maybe accent or some kind of rolling of the tongue or something, it's I guess that changes it a little bit. But for anyone who doesn't know to do that, or like you said, a correct kind of glossary pronunciation, that's what I would end up calling that. And man, that doesn't really, it doesn't really roll off the tongue, which they don't all have to, but I would feel like I'd be stumbling over myself or over the word every time I was reading it and had to say it.
Now, as we said with Tolkien and how he did it, they've done a little bit of that. What he did was they've balanced some of these hard to say made up names with names that are easily said because they're our words or from our language. The Stormlords, that's a place. The Oran Empire of Light.
Nice.
Or the Oran Empire of Light.
Yeah, that's cool.
The Desolation, probably a desert. Chimerian Downfall. Here's another weird one. Made up. Urda On.
Urda On.
URDA accent apostrophe whatever. And then AN. Urda On. Island Vakita. The Isle of Revels. Forbidden Empire. So you get the point. There's the Sea of Tears right in the big middle.
Yeah, that it looks like people are avoiding if those are ship routes. I don't know if they are, but if those are
there's something.
ship routes,
Yeah, they're definitely
like
routes.
There's something going on there.
Ocean Astarthia. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Astarthia is pretty good. But
like, I could Joe with that one pretty good. But the names of those continents, I think it would be a bit of a. No, yeah. Well, I had the exact same problem with this book too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I haven't looked. Or I haven't read enough or looked at it enough to know.
Well, I was gonna say, not even map aside, like even just character names. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right.
Okay. First glance, Hallowfell. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. He calls this the Four Corners of Civilization. Chald.
Yeah, exactly.
Ceald. Chilled.
Maybe.
I think CE is pronounced with a CH.
You think so?
I mean, how else would you say it?
Yeah.
Chald. I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to college. The Aturan Empire, Atur, the Eld, the Small Kingdoms, Ventas, the Stormwall Mountains, Modeg, Ademre.
I think so.
Okay, here's one. Here's the perfect example of what I would never do. Nothing against Patrick Rothfuss. He's done way more than I have. Mm-hmm. Although he owes us a third book. YLL.
Yeah. Ill. That's the only way I would pronounce it.
Ill.
Yeah, YLL. That's the only way that I would pronounce it.
Tell us. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Any Name of the Wind fans?
Yeah, Name of the Wind. I know Patrick Rothfuss is on a lot of top 10 best series of fantasy of all time.
Yeah. Too bad it'll never be finished.
Right there with Sanderson, Martin. He's right there at the top with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Wheel of Time. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, I don't think that's great. Do you?
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of his naming conventions because that was just even the map. Like I said, even some of the characters' names or some of the other names through there that you get was, for me, I was like, it basically got me to that point, and I could never confidently say which way to pronounce said name, and so it really slowed my reading pace down when I came to it.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like when I get to a word, if I have trouble saying it, even if it's mental, if I have trouble sounding it out in my own thought, then it's a stumbling block.
Yeah, it completely disrupts your pace. It's like you're going, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then we're going again.
Sanderson's okay.
Well, I like Rashar a lot better.
Rashar is good. He's got Endless Ocean, Ocean of Origins, Steam Water Ocean, which I love. I think that's cool as heck.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Frostlands, The Shallow Crypts. Another way to say the Dead Marshes.
Right.
Baba Tharnum. What's funny is I've read this first half of this book, and I can't even find where the places that are in the book, the actual content are.
That's a lot of small print.
It
going
is.
On there.
I can't find it. I need to get a big version of this. But regardless, naming is, I guess, important to us. And I guess what we've absolutely stumbled into, like I said, was a way for us to fall, a place for us to fall back into when maybe you hit a dry spell. You know, we used to, back in the day, we would write down names on notebooks. And I've got some of those. We should drag them out at some point. I know you've got a bunch too. I think between us, we probably got 25 or 30 notebooks filled with, story and names and, just all this stuff. But we would list out names, and you go back and look at them now. We've checked through a lot of them. A lot of them weren't used. But man, that you can come to the end of yourself pretty fast. And we did. So we came up with this system. And you want to tell them about the system from your standpoint? I can show them what we're talking about.
I mean, really, it's utilizing the tools that we have at hand. So, in one of the previous videos, I think I had mentioned, people who are bilingual or multilingual, we should just say, could have a bit of an advantage because you could have a lot of really cool words to play with. So one place that we turned to was like, well, what does things sound like in another language? It's like, what if we want to call this, the dry plains, but we don't want to call it the dry plains.
Or the brown hills.
Yeah, the brown hills. And so it's like, what if we want it just to be just a little bit more interesting? What can it possibly be? What can we possibly do with that? So one place that we turned to was actually Google Translate. And what we started doing was typing in keywords. And we both kind of had different ways that we went about it. From my standpoint, the way I approached it is I would choose one word and I would put that into Translate, and I would go across multiple different languages until I find writing down the ones that I liked, thought were cool, that could be used for something.
Which ones did you land on? Like, which languages do you remember being your favorites?
There's quite a few of the European languages like Welsh, Norwegian,
Scandinavian, a lot of those. Of course, a lot of those end up being the same too. Like
I was gonna say
Icelandic and Swedish are they ended up being the same. Or
say Icelandic was pretty cool. It came out very Nordish.
It's older,
and so Nordic, and so that was cool.
We like Greek.
Let's say Greek had some cool stuff. Estonian had some cool stuff.
Latin, of course.
Yeah, Latin, of course. Latin, because it just sounds cool. And then if you mix it with other things, you could even mix it with other English words and just put it in there. And it's like, oh, well, that turns out to be a really cool word. That was another thing, is that we went outside the box in terms of we would use multiple languages for different words and combine them in such a way. So some names that one of these days we'll probably share up front, but I can think of a few names off the top of my head that I really, really like those names a lot. But they are just bits and pieces, not even the full words. They're just bits and pieces from two different words, and I don't even think it's all of the I don't think it's even all the word. It's just
part of it.
Yeah, it's just part of the word in this other language, and combine that with a completely different word, and now it's been so long that I don't even know if they were in the same language or not.
I don't think they were. I think we hodgepodged, mixed and matched to help us break out a little bit of just using one language.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a theme using a lot of Scandinavian, European, some German, a lot of probably Gaelic, Scottish, Irish, some Italian probably, very European, and certainly very, Scandinavian. Danish was another one we used a lot, I think.
I think so.
And at the beginning, we tried to, kind of keep certain language sets or certain languages as they related to certain races in our world. But, it's kind of got really tough to keep up with that. So we ended up just using the rule of cool.
Yeah.
And what that told us was phonetically, if this sounds good together, smashing those two parts of two different languages together and it sounds good, man, that's a whole made up thing, right? But
Very
it's
much so.
rooted in reality. It's rooted in our reality.
Yeah, yeah.
So you said, let's take the word brown hills. So we're going to do that right now as a test just to see what comes up. So bear with us here.
Café Lofus.
So
I like the ending of that.
you heard it. You heard that, hopefully. Cafe. I did this in Greek, as you see, and I sounded it out, which is another good technique.
Mm-hmm.
Although you can scare the person you're writing with if they don't know that's coming, and you're like, the heck was that? Cafe Lofus? Is that what it said?
I think it was Lofus.
Lofus?
I think. But I was going to say, I like that ending part. If you take that last part, which I'm assuming is supposed to be the part of hills, because I guess cafe is supposed to be brown, that at that point becomes a really, really, it could be interesting for sure.
So there's Scots Gaelic in, I don't know how you say that.
Well, neither does Google Translate, evidently, because they don't give you the speak option.
It's not there. Scots Gaelic.
So they haven't gotten around to a guy from they haven't gotten around to the Scots yet to get them to record their words phonetically for them.
So in this case,
get on it, Google. You're slacking.
Brune bakker.
See, in our minds, that looks nothing like what she just said.
Brune bakker.
Yeah.
But it looks good. Brune looks good. So what Cody was saying is if you go back and do, let's say, Brune Lofus, that's what you're talking about, is jamming two different dialects, two different languages. Brown for Brune. I know that's not the way she said it, but that's the way our English brains look at it and see it.
Yeah, of course.
Brune Lofus. Maybe you jam that together. Maybe you just keep it separate.
Yeah.
This is just an example of the way we would have done that. But we could try it. Let's try a different, not brown hills, but what? Deep ocean?
Sure.
So there it is in Danish.
I was going to say, I feel like that's going to sound nothing like it looks. But now, of course, Greek, it's not going to... Oh, okay, thanks. Translate. Yeah, I'm...
Βαθύς ωκεανός.
Vathis, I get. V-A-T-H-Y accent.
Right.
The E sound. Vathis.
Which could be really cool, because I like the way that sounds.
Vathis Stomhan. I don't know how you say that. Oh, again.
Yeah, you can't. You can't get it with Scots Gaelic.
Scots Gaelic is like a non-starter, nothing burger in Translate. So there you go.
Not all languages will be read back to you.
Okay, so here's the list.
Yeah, but you're spoiled for choice because you can literally go anywhere that you want.
So what we would do there is we would begin to start trying to, if we like a part of that, like half, we like maybe half, and vathis, vathis half, or half vathis. That's a way to do it. It's not something I think is good, but we're getting an example of how we would do it.
I would maybe even take off the S, or not the S. I would take off the F and go havathis.
Havathis, right there you go.
So that's another thing. Like that's another thing that I would do is like, yeah, right there. It's like, okay, that could be interesting. It's like vathis, that does sound cool. It's like, okay, throw something on the beginning there, so take out the F as havathis. It's like I like the way that sounds. That sounds pretty cool.
So here's an example of something that you might not expect, because you've probably never heard of it like we haven't. Maybe you have if you're much more versed in languages and world cultures and regions. Maybe you know what Urdu is. But Urdu is...
Sorry, I had to get close. I was like, there's no way I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
Urdu used to be... or Urdu, whatever how you say it, I don't know. Probably going to show my southern raising in this video, but Urdu...
Load up the pickup.
Urdu kind of surprisingly came up with some good stuff over our time doing this. So here it's Gera Samandar. Gera Samandar. I bet that's not how you say it at all. What do you want to bet?
Probably not.
Samandar.
Gera Samandar.
Even far. I was gonna say, yeah, not far, but definitely.
But what is Urdu? I don't know.
I actually do not even know. That was one thing that.
But look how you write it.
Yeah, the writing is crazy.
Here's another one that will be probably unfamiliar to you. Uzbek. Now, I would assume this is Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan.
Probably.
Which is Russian, East German, Russian, Poland, that area, right? Or is it more closely to Turkmenistan and all that? Either way, it's far Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Which a lot of it was Russian, or at one point, I don't know. That's been so broken up through the centuries or years. But surprisingly not too far off, like Okene. That's pretty cool.
That is.
So you start to see names or parts of names that you could use to make up new words, like just completely new words that would fit into your world and your philology, your naming convention.
Because you're not this is I think the point that I'm trying to get across with it is that we are not saying that there's a rule to this. That's the great thing about it. There aren't really any rules. You don't have to go in here and use exactly, like we said, brown hills or deep ocean and take the exact translation, either how it reads to you or how it is pronounced phonetically. You can mix and match. You can get inspiration for stuff loosely based off these. Because in our world, we have plenty of examples of that, where the name of a region or place is loose. It is very loose on what languages inspired it and what it actually means. But phonetically, it's like, that sounds really, really good. And I think some of the names that I was thinking of are loosely based on that, because I'm thinking of a pair of swords, actually, if you recall. Those are ones that are loosely based on a couple of words.
Well, and that gets back to this will be a whole nother video, maybe even a series, but when it comes down to cultures.
Yeah.
When it comes down to economics, when it comes down to, trade, commodities, minerals, things like that. I think that's what you're talking about, is that city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So, yeah, we based it, and it's not like we have this great tome of things that we can't let you hear or talk about yet. We will break this out for you very soon.
But it's just not there yet.
So, like Cody said, this city was based on its number one mineral deposit, and you might use that as it relates to a particular landmark in your city or region or land. You heard me say desolation earlier. That's a common way of calling a desert a desert. I think Tolkien used waste for that same thing. We've done that. But again, these are terms like you would use to articulate what you're trying to say. So if you say the endless ocean, like Sanderson has, well, that's kind of telling, right? It tells you without having to tell you.
Yeah, because I think some things can be exactly straightforward with that, and they still sound cool.
Right.
Right.
So naming, in our estimation, in my estimation, is something that we should probably rate as higher in necessity or need for viability, engagement, relevance, all of those things that you need to make up a great story, a great brand, a great world, in our opinion. I think it's a marketing principle. I really do. I think all those things matter when you're creating a world, creating a map, creating cultures, creating this history, all of these things. I think you should do it through a marketing filter. So what would that be? Is it, relevant? And what does relevant mean? Well, it's not going to be relevant to our world necessarily, but it's going to sound relevant in the world that it's in, right? Is it engaging? These are marketing principles. Is it relevant? Is it engaging? Is it something that I want to be, somewhere I want to be? Cody says it all the time. He would rather just slip off into our world, the world we've created, than to be in this one half the time. Especially when you start talking about politics and crap like that. All these things make you want to slip out of this world and into your imagination. But that's because you want to be there.
Yeah.
If it didn't sound cool and it didn't look cool, would you want to be there, right? If the map was kind of and the names were you couldn't say anything, all of that stuff, would you really want to be there? Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
Probably not. And once again, that does go back to, a lot of the culture and this and that, but the names, it's like some of them can be pretty inspiring, I think.
Well, just the look.
Yeah.
We talked about maps. We got a whole series on map making. If you go look at Antarctica on our map and then look at the United States on a satellite imagery, tell me which one you want to be, where you want to be. Right, you don't want to be in Antarctica. It is just gray, some blues, and mostly white.
Unhospitable.
Right. In the United States, there's a lot of green, there's a lot of white, or a lot of browns and there's some white, but it is very green and rich.
Yeah.
So those things matter when it comes to, is it relevant? Is it engaging? And mostly, is it compelling? Does what you're putting out there, in the way it looks, in the way it sounds, in the way it reads, is it compelling someone to open their wallet and buy it? Right? Those three terms. Remember this. Is it engaging, or is it relevant? Is it engaging? Is it compelling? Is someone going to lay down their hard-earned money to buy it? And I think if you're an unknown author especially, or if you have your books in a bookstore, you better be able to break away or stick out from the crowd. Mm-hmm. So it has to be a great cover. It has to be, in my opinion, great map, great phonetically sounding philology, or your naming convention needs to be great. So anything else that we would cover when it comes to names? I'm trying to think. We don't have anything else as far as a system that we've used, but let me ask you this. Did we use this in our system for naming people? Do you remember?
No.
I want to say no as well.
People were a whole different matter. It was going to say it was still our same if it looks cool or if it sounds cool. It is cool. We followed that, but I never once used like Google Translate or anything like that to try to name a person. Just because the name, to me anyways, the names of places and the names of people are just, they're two different things to me.
Okay, and I think I'll say it this way. I think why we did that was because the regions, the mountains, the oceans, the things that made up our geologic world needed to feel more rooted in some form of reality. Needed to sound more like they've been there or like they relate to our world. Maybe this is subconscious. I don't know. We've never really even talked about this. This is happening right here on tape. I think it was because we wanted our world and the names of the places and rivers and things like that to sound more like they've been there or they're rooted in reality. Maybe to take the edge off of a little bit because it is fantasy and everyone knows that this is made up. But when it came to our names of our people, some of our cities, I don't know. What about cities?
Cities were kind of a gambit. We did a little bit of everything because we had places named after products that we had.
Oh yeah.
And we also we have a ton of that, and then we did use Google Translate for some of the cities as well, and because there are also loosely based words. And then there are some that I genuinely do think it is just a phonetic thing. Like, I think the towns and cities are a good example in our world of the in-between. The regions, the mountains, the oceans were all very much this methodology we've been talking about this whole time. And then the people were more, for me, it was definitely a psychological thing. Because I can understand trying to find words that make up hill or mountain with colors or sceneries or any kind of adjective whatsoever. And being like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. But psychologically, I couldn't bring myself to be like, yeah, this guy's named this, and that's like these two words that mean like bluebird. Because in my head, I would just be wanting to call him, I would want my characters like call him Blue or something like that. I don't know. But towns and cities were kind of a mixture between the two because they covered the gambit. We can point to towns that it's like, no, this was just purely phonetically, it sounds cool, or yeah, it's pretty much just straight English words like put together because they sound good and it does kind of match the region. And then there are some places that are the exact same method that we've shown you here today.
Proximity as well. Like if we had a town in a western part of a region, you would put west in the name somewhere. Right. Just to get you, again, letting the regions, letting the elements, mountain ranges, rivers kind of dictate. Like if a place was in a valley and it was a forest, who uses Valenwood? There's a Valenwood somewhere in one of these epic.
Well, there's Valenwood, which is a part of Elder Scrolls.
How do you say Valen? How do you spell Valenwood?
I think it's Valen Wood, Wood. I think that's how it's spelt.
Okay, so in Dragonlance,
if I remember,
in Dragonlance it's Valenwood.
Okay,
Vallenwood. The Valenwood trees are those big trees that they put the end of the last home in.
So I was gonna say it sounds like there's a 1L difference in those. Yeah, I was gonna say because the Valenwood and Elder Scrolls is like the region, or I think it's the entire like like region or whatever of like their version of wood elves.
So valley would be where Valen or Valen would come from, right? And then wood would be forest, Valen wood. Okay, that's easy. But if you look at your region or you look at your map and you say, oh, there's a valley there between two rivers or between two mountain regions or ranges, then you've got a valley. Well, there's a forest in it. You see what I'm saying? So your regions, your geological elements, your oceans, your rivers, all these things can help form why a place is called what it's called.
Right.
So naming convention is hopefully maybe we've dispelled a little bit of the mystery of it. I don't know. Maybe we've made it worse.
Maybe we haven't told you guys anything you don't already know. The point, though, is that someone is going to pick something from this, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, and make something of it. That's kind of the main goal over all of this. Hopefully, we've given you guys some ideas about how to go about naming some of your worlds. And I know that for some of y'all, if you're just doing a tabletop RPG, pretty much those books already have plenty of stuff laid out for you. But in case you're wanting to be wholly original, there's some ways that you can do it. And if you're writing your own book, then this is definitely going to be a need for you, is to have these naming conventions and figure out where you want to be in this thing.
If I was writing a book on how to write a book, if I was writing a book on how to write a fantasy book, I would have whole chapters dedicated to the importance of naming and how we think is maybe one of the better ways, which we think this is a good way. I've not done it really any other way except just, again, phonetically. It sounds good. We pulled it right out of thin air. Boom, that's good. Or taking a name that's in our world and maybe just twisting it a little bit, and then using Google Translate. So AI, again, is going to be a tool right at your fingertips. It already is. Most of you already use it. I think it's great. I think it works. And I think you're going to get, like, if you put in, say I have a Brown Hills region or area in my story, and you type in the prompt, tell me about this region in my land that is brown and has rolling hills. You're going to get a whole litany of things out of AI, right? Even to the point where you're like, man, I didn't ask for that, but that's really cool. Now, warning, big disclaimer here. If you go and ask it later in a couple of days about the Black Hills, you may get some very templated, similar information, similar, very close to what it said about the Brown Hills, even to the point of how they were formed or who lives there or what the rituals are, blah, blah, blah.
Which would be another, I don't know if it's another disclaimer or reason why I would say AI is a great brainstorming tool, but it's a horrible way for you to completely craft your world and your storytelling, because it can only pull from what has existed and only on a certain level. It can't really dissect things down to a minimum level where you can craft something that's told in a wholly original way. So I think another disclaimer would be for that is definitely take advantage, guys, of AI to figure out some of this stuff.
Your
regions, and it'll inspire you for sure. But I know I'm going to have to say this, but just don't be a dunce and be like, oh, I can just have this literally make the entire world for me, and then just copy and paste the whole thing into whatever you're writing.
Don't do that.
Yeah, because it is not wholly there, and nowadays people have too much technology where if you were to do that, they would just simply put it in one of these other programs that actually seek out AI, and they can tell you how much of something that was written was AI generated or not. Images too, they can tell, they can look at it and they can detect like, hey, this is probably an AI generated image type thing.
And really, there's a threshold that we're kind of crossing right now where it's okay to use AI for these certain things, right? AI in fantasy art. Ooh, I think we've crossed it. I really think we have. And I hate that if you're a fantasy artist and you fear for your job, I don't want you to. I think you should not do that. I think it should only push you to be better or to push the limits of your own abilities. Or if nothing else, just charge more. Like make it phenomenal, so much to the point, so big, or just commissioned, things that, because there's going to be a big faction of people, especially my age and older, they're going to always want hand done by people things, right? There's also a generation that's here now that's, 25 and under, maybe even less than that, 18 and under, that AI is a part of their common mindset. It's about part of their everyday. And they're not going to give two craps about if that book cover was AI or not. That's the threshold I'm talking about. It's like, there are certain lines we won't cross because of that very thing. Same time, AI does inspire us. It's funny. Like we'll look at each other, we'll put something in there as a prompt, and just maybe when we're trying to find something that we wouldn't think of, and we put it in and it spits out this whole litany of history and things. And I'm just like, I just laugh. I'm like, that is crazy that it's like, but
just went off the deep end. Yeah.
Right. But the prompts that we're putting in there, I think that may be the other key there. If you're using AI and you've created a world already, well, tell it about the world you've created. Tell AI about your world, region by region, family by family, culture by culture, and give it the information, and then let it digest that, consume it, and then help you in areas where you need help. That's fine. I think that's cool. But you have to also understand that AI has already consumed Lovecraft, Tolkien, Martin, Sanderson, Jordan. It's already consumed all that. I mean, right? Am I wrong in saying that? I'm certain that it's already been input. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's learning from.
If it's on the internet, it's learning from it.
If it has scoured the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that there's enough literature from all of those authors, plus even the books.
Yeah.
That it's consumed it. So that's what it's pulling from. So you can rest assured that it's going to pull similarity into what it tells you about your world, or if you're asking it for, if you're prompting it for things to help you, flesh out your world or write your story. There's threshold, there's lines there that I wouldn't trust it just yet, or I wouldn't let it do your work for you.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say it's nowhere near to that point, and it's a great tool. It really is. It can also be a detriment, though, if you start to wholly rely on it, because you're going to start seeing the chinks in its armor pretty quickly. Like, I can tell you right now, there's even art out there that is trying to make money off of AI art, but then you look at it, and the fingers are all wrong. There's like two thumbs gripping around a sword that's in one hand.
Let me show that.
And I'm
real
just
quick.
like, excuse me. And yeah.
So what prompt would I use to get what we're talking about to show? I mean,
literally guy type warrior standing in a field with a sword, or warrior holding a sword in the middle of a field.
Standing in a field holding a sword.
Yeah.
Okay. Generate.
And lo and behold.
Look at how he's holding that sword.
So, yeah.
I mean, you see that.
As you can see immediately. I don't even know what's in his other hand.
What is happening? Like, why would you hold a sword that way?
Yes, that's a small knife in the other hand. I don't know. But, yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. I love the armor. I love the hair on that one, yeah. But once again, like I said, guys, it cannot make a weapon to save its life.
And let's be honest. We can make fun of this and laugh at this all we want because it's not hurting anyone's feelings. We're not going to bully it, but we're going to poke fun at it.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Let's see here.
Yep. I don't even know what's happening with
She's injured herself. She has absolutely injured herself.
Yeah, she might want to make sure she didn't nick an artery. I don't know if there are any in that part of the arm, but that looks like it's impaled through her bicep and come out her tricep.
That looks like it hurts. Maybe it was just a day of armor testing. Okay, perfect example. Where's that sword coming from?
It's a magic sword. It's floating behind him.
And his head's pretty small. So here
he has a medical condition.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about, folks. This is what you're going to get. Okay, now let's look at what Firefly could create if it was not a sword or anything to do with somebody holding something. What would be the prompts?
A dragon standing on a cliffside.
Okay.
Or a dragon on cliff.
A dragon on a cliff. Well, that's
so right off the get-go, I was going to say pretty good for the most part.
Except what is that? Is his tail?
What it looks like his tail.
He's
is
a lizard.
It
broke off and it's going to grow back.
Yeah, it's like off the screen and then like come back or something like that.
What the hell? Now this is a Chinese dragon, of course. I guess we didn't give it any prompt as to which cultural dragon that it is, but that it did it on its own, right?
Right.
Or Japanese, I don't know.
That's a little unique.
All right, so let's go back and say
there's more your typical fantasy dragon, but that's definitely the one that you would, definitely go to.
Let's go fantasy dragon. Fantasy dragon
with black scales.
Black scales. Generate.
And Badoom. There you go.
Well, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, way better.
So,
just a few of those examples. And I will say, though, as great as this is pretty much where it ends.
It does end right here with Firefly.
I was going to say, and I have the receipts to prove that because I have a ton of saved images that from this program and others where I've gone into detail about the dragon. Like I've specified how many horns it should have. I've specified what it should look like this way, the spines, this and that. Sometimes it gets really close, but it always falls short on certain things. There were some types of horns that I could not get it to generate until I gave it a reference picture. But the problem with that reference picture was it was like an actual mountain goat with like the curved. I could not get it.
That's right.
To make a dragon with those like curved mountain goat.
You wanted a ram's horn.
Yeah.
A big horn sheep.
Yeah.
Horn.
Yeah. Big horn sheep. It's like I wanted it to have that circular spiral. I wanted it to have that spiral coming off of its head. Writing wise, it would not create that at all. Gave it a picture and it finally did that. However, the dragon ended up looking a little goatish in the face. A little sheepish in the face. Like, it was like we finally found a fine line, but this is what we mean whenever it says it really ends here is that there's only so far this thing's willing to take you. And even if you give it picture references to be like, hey, like this, it will either go so close to that even details you didn't want are going to be implemented in, or it's going to still be somewhere a little off in the weeds somewhere.
Can you imagine a dragon coming upon you in your story or in your campaign, and instead of breathing fire on you, it just opens its mouth and goes, "Bah."
Or it could be one of those screaming goats.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Ah!"
Or fainting, like, and then it faints.
Oh my God,
Oh,
fainting dragons.
That's a whole new thing. We just created something.
There you go.
Let's write a whole story about it. No, really. So we kind of dove off a cliff here with AI, but AI, again, when it comes to naming, when it comes to doing pictures, doing illustrations, it's got some value. There's no doubt it has some value, but it also has its limits, and it has, in my opinion, it has a place, but it's not taking my place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Because as cool as that is, and there's some really cool looking dragons in there, the best way, guys, for you to get exactly what you want is to either A, do it yourself, or B, get another human to do it for you.
Hire it out.
Yeah. And collaborate with them. If you're not an artist, the only way you're going to be able to get exactly what you want is work with someone else to be able to collaborate, to say, okay, this is the type of horns it should have. These are the type of scales. Here's the coloration. Is it an elemental type of dragon? Does it breathe fire, or does it breathe ice or acid, or what? It's like the only way you're going to be able to get any of this stuff exactly the way that it's supposed to be, is humans.
And I think you can go to Upwork, Fiverr. There's all kinds of websites that you can go to hire these things out. And trust me, there's a ton of artists out there who are separating themselves.
Yeah.
They're taking on work from a lot of different places, but they're getting really, really good, and they're young. They're not Alan Lee. They're not John Howe.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we could afford them. Larry Elmore.
Certainly not.
Don't think we could afford these guys. But regardless, there's a lot of new up-and-coming artists who have their work out there displayed, who can do your artwork for you if you choose not to stick with AI, which I wouldn't. But you could use AI. Here's a great thing about AI. Go create a Pinterest board. Create a bunch of AI images of things that you have given it prompts to describe your creature, your person, your place, whatever, and create a mood board in Pinterest, and then give that to your artist. That's the way to use AI that I think is relevant.
Yeah, I think so.
And that would help you get the point across. Mm-hmm. Because then the artist is going to look at that and go, dang, that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then try to do better.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that was more bang for the buck than maybe you expected and even we expected. But I think we got off into some things that are really cool. This is more of a podcast style video that we've done today, which we are launching outside of our map making series in the Creation Crucible. We're going to have silos of things that we're going to be, tutoring you on. Some of it's going to be tutorial, like how to. Some of it's going to be more of just how we do it, not necessarily how to do it, but how we do it. And others just going to be commentary. It's just going to be us talking about the world that we're working in here. And we would ask you guys just, again, give us your thoughts. Talk to us. Let us know if you think we're crazy, or if that was really cool and you appreciated it and you tried it, you used it. And that'll hopefully give us more content is what we can do more videos on coming up. But we certainly would love for you to subscribe to these, to this channel. And if you enjoy what we're doing and you want to see more, then absolutely do that. Like, share, hit the bell, do the things that you know how to do, because it's because of you that we are going to be able to continue doing this. go check out our Patreon. It's linked right below here. And we will be coming out with some new content very soon. Our map series is almost done. I think we have one more video in that series, and that will be done. It'll be a 5-parter, I think. And we're going to be continuing in this series. I think the next one we're going to do is we're going to talk about cultures. Cody's got a really, I think, that's kind of where you shine. I think that's where you really do well is understanding cultures, maybe because you come from a different culture. And more on that later. It's not what you think. It's probably even more, it's more cool. It's cooler than you think. And I think that is probably why you shine in that area. So I think that will be next. And then we'll go on to races. Maybe races and cultures will kind of be a 2-parter. And so on and so forth as it relates to writing fiction or world building, and especially in the fantasy realm or the fantasy genre. So anything else? Sounds like that's a wrap to me.
I got nothing else.
Cool. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. So stay tuned. Again, you know what to do. Subscribe and share and do all those good things. And we'll see you next time when we do it live.